Okay.
So the reason that we're on the call with Donald today is because First Baptist Church of Canton is setting a very high bar for the rest of the churches in the nation, really a gold standard of intentionality, proactivity in making sure that their church is literally the safest church in the region. And of course, they're located in Canton, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. So one of the things that caught my attention is the fact that they're starting with really orienting their safety around the children. And so, Donald, tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about the burden of your heart for protecting the children, and then, stepping out beyond children's ministry. Even tell us a little bit about, how this has come about in your church.
Well, it started with my wife and I going to a section of youth summit at Georgia Baptist put on that down at West Atlanta. And as we went to that all-day training session taught by a couple of attorneys out of Texas, became very aware of the vulnerability of churches to predators. And so as we attended that, we really came back from that training with a burden and a want to and a desire to make our church as safe as we possibly could. So what we've done is we've connected with MinistrySafe, which is a ministry out of Texas. These two attorneys that have been involved in this in their ministry and in their practice. And what we're doing with it, we're requiring our staff to it's mandatory that they attend this training that we attended. And so that's in the plans now, and we've already connected with MinistrySafe, and we're already started doing training online with these guys, with our volunteer people, as well as with our staff. So we've just kind of opened that door of training and preparation, because we know that the better prepared we are, the better chance our children have of not becoming subject to these predators. And so we've gone full speed ahead in this area, and we really want to be as safe as we can possibly be.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind often with churches trying to be safe is they say, well, we're doing background checks, and most churches have done background checks. What would you say to a church that says, well, we do our background checks with our children, so isn't that enough? What would you say to that?
Well, in our training, what we found out, Scott, was that background checks, even though they're necessary and very good, and we were doing those already, but they only get 10% of the predators that are out there. Statistics that these guys that have been studying that in lives is that it only picks up 10%. So our whole church, with the staff and those that work with children and youth, have got to be trained as gatekeepers, because a predator will try to groom a particular leader to get around them to get to the children. And so your gatekeepers have got to be trained not to profile a predator, because you look just like me and you. In this training, they have live predators that are giving testimonies, that are in jail now, that are in prison, and they're telling about how they groomed gatekeepers in the churches, or even moms and dads, to get to the children, and they'll do anything to do that. So we've got to have not only our staff, but our volunteer children and youth workers trained up to be gatekeepers that will not allow a predator to get around them. No exceptions. And so that's what we're doing. Background checks, great, they're fine, but they catch 10%. That means 90% of predators can go around that, because a lot of them have never been charged with anything. And if you've never been charged with anything, there's no record to be a red flag on you. So really, the gatekeepers have to be trained. We've got a team that we've put together of very diligent, smart kind of people that are doing reference checks for us with churches where they've been, and that's a lot of times that's where the breakdown happens, we don't go back and do reference checks and know why someone is not at another church or why they're coming to us. And so on that front door, we've really got to be diligent in checking everything we can, and then making sure we've got our policy in place and we follow in that policy, no exceptions, to protect our children and our youth.
That's a great point. So many people don't want to offend, like church pulpit committees or personnel committees.
Right.
Don't want to offend anybody by doing all the checks, but it's just the nature of the day in which we live that we need to be doing. And actually, all churches should have been doing more due diligence a long time ago. We took for granted these things weren't happening in our churches, and the way we're finding out is obviously cases that any church would ever regret. We don't like to read those in the news, much less experience them at a church level. Now, to make sure that your staff and your volunteer workers are trained up, first of all, who has to go through the training at your church? Who are you requiring to go through that training?
We're requiring, and of course, I'm the executive pastor at First Canton, so I'm kind of the second pastor in line there as far as authority. But what we're doing is we're requiring from our senior pastor all the way down to our maintenance staff that take care and clean our church. We're going to require it from the top to the bottom. And then we've got a couple of leadership committees like elders, and then we're going to start offering it to them. The online training is about I think it takes, it's about 45-minute training, and then you go back and do a test before you get certified. So that's the online that's rolling out right now. And then our staff is scheduled to go to Cartersville for this all-day summit like my wife Suzanne and I attended. They're going to be doing that in April, but we're gonna just keep working it and get as many people trained as we can. But all of the staff, absolutely every bit of it. If you're on staff at First Canton, it's going to be required that you go. It's mandatory.
What would you say to someone? I mean, this is really an outstanding program, and we are also aware of MinistrySafe. And if anyone wants to find out more about that, they can just Google MinistrySafe, and you'll find that online. It's one word, MinistrySafe. What would you say to someone who's looking for a church in Canton, or really just anywhere? Is this one of the questions that you would encourage them to ask a church, no matter where they're located? If they're someone looking for a church in Texas or New Jersey or Florida, would this be a required question as you would encourage anyone who's actually considering a church to attend?
Well, if I think and I'm, I'm a boomer age, so I don't have kids at home anymore. But if I had children or youth and I was going to check out a church and I was going to be releasing my children to the leadership and to the teachers and trips and all that goes on in the church, it would be one of the first things that I would ask. I'd say, what are you guys doing to make sure that my child, my youth, is going to be safe? And I'd want to hear that. Really, I guess that was the question I was asking myself, because when Scott, because when you're the pastor, it's like you're a shepherd over some sheep there, and there's a lot of wolves out there, and how are you going to protect them? And so I think it is entirely, especially in the day and age that we live, if you don't ask those questions, if you don't really seek to find out what the church is doing to protect your child, how can you release them to even a Sunday school teacher or to anything that's going on within the church?
That's exactly right. And, parents are more and more savvy, I think, these days, because they understand the nature of what's out there. From a spiritual or biblical standpoint, the scripture that comes to my mind is, not to be ignorant of the devil's schemes. And
Right.
1 Peter 5:8 says that he walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. In a way, this could be considered a Christian stewardship issue. Could you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, I feel very responsible, and as part of my calling as a minister. I mean, how do we not do this, especially when we're aware of so many predators, and we know what's going on, in the past. So all over the country. So we've got to do this. I don't think we have any choice. And I thank God that Georgia Baptists have decided to bring this training to the state of Georgia. It's great that they've done that. When my wife and I went, and I'd never been to any of this training. The background checks was all I ever kind of, let's do the background and let's roll,
Mm-hmm.
Went to this training, and it was like an eye opener for my wife. And my wife is a nurse and a counselor. And it's like, she was like blown away by this, by what's out there. And so we both came back to the church and said, look, it's not a question of whether we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And we're going to be very thorough about it. And we're going to get after it right now. And so we began to put a team together to help us do that. So it's rolling out right now. And I can't tell you how happy and how good I feel that we're doing this.
Well, we are too. And so we want to thank you for sharing with us what you're doing at First Baptist Church of Canton. Obviously, you're in a fantastic location. You have a beautiful building, plenty of programs, lots for families to engage in, and people of all ages. And it's, kudos to you guys for saying that's not enough. There's more. We want to make it a safe place to come where people can have peace of mind, where you would be a far less likely target of predators. The fact that you're even doing this and it's getting out into the community that this is the kind of church you are can even ward off potential threats just by itself. So thank you for taking these measures and getting the word out about it. And we want to encourage others who may be listening who are leading in a church to also take these same steps. Donald, it's been a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you for sharing with us what you're doing internally there and setting a standard for churches everywhere to take this very seriously, and of course the lives of our students and our children and their parents' peace of mind as well. Thank you for that.
Amen. Thank you, Scott.
All right.